Hello, sportsman. Hey, I'm trying to be practical on this ice fishing thing. And the problem with ice fishing is that it comes to an end. The ice melts. Yes. So it's going to be melting pretty soon. We're going to have to get into spring fishing. I can't wait. Let's start it right now. Let's go through some of the different types of fishing that come up in the end of March and April. Oh man, we are going to have some good times. If you want to psych up, stay tuned. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching The Practical Sportsman.
Look at the size of that walleye.
Holy cow. Oh, it's not a bad one. From what I've seen this winter, an epidemic of spring fever is already breaking out, and it's pretty darn serious. The group it hits hardest is fishermen. Now, one symptom you'll find in fly fishermen is that they'll start tying flies and getting their fly fishing vests ready 2 months ahead of time. They'll babble on about the beauty of brook trout, and fly fishermen will extol the virtues of catch and release. Now, some trout fishermen use spinning gear and lures like flatfish. Now, spin fishing doesn't seem as difficult as fly fishing, but actually, fly fishing isn't as difficult as the yuppie fly fishing purists make it out to be. But that's another subject for another day. On a flatfish. To counteract the debilitating effects of spring fever, you should keep a few of the fish you catch on each trip for a fresh meal. To me, a fresh fish dinner is the ultimate reward of fishing, so I always keep a few, even if they're bass or trout. Now, most of the time, I fish for species of fish that I like to eat. When I have caught what I need, the rest will go back. A fisherman who use bait like salted minnows instead of artificial lures usually keep what they catch. Some people refer to this as meat fishing. I don't think meat fishing is a derogatory term. All fishermen enjoy the challenge of the catch. They enjoy the outdoors. They enjoy the companionship with fishing buddies. I mean, fishing has more positive benefits than most recreational activities. If you don't like to mess with live bait, you prefer to release what you catch, artificial lures like spinners are the way to go. Casting a spinner takes a little practice, but it's nothing you can't learn in 5 minutes or so. The more you cast, the more accurate you'll become. The fish practically hook themselves on artificial lures, and they rarely swallow the hooks, so they're easy to remove without hurting the fish. Now, stream trout fishing doesn't require a lot of expensive equipment. The skills you need are relatively easy to learn. And another advantage is you can fish by yourself. I mean, you don't need a boat. Trout streams are usually shallow and you can wade. Trout are excellent to eat, and you can often catch more than you want to keep. Stream trout fishing is a good cure for spring fever. Fishing the Great Lakes is a little different story, though. It helps to have an expensive boat, lots of rods and electronic gear. The good news is you can rent it. For anywhere from $50 to $80 a person, you can charter a boat with all the gear. Some of these charter boats represent investments of close to $250,000. You fish and let the captain and the crew worry about the techniques, the insurance, the dock fees. Plus, you can learn a lot from listening to these captains.
Those reels, they're Shimano reels, and they're a lever drag versus the star drag, and they got a really smooth clutch system. Lots of times the fish is going out and people think they're bringing it in, and it's going the other way, and that's kind of what was happening there. It's not a big fish, but it's a nice fish. We got a line going across here, Fred.
Well, so I guess I wonder, what's the advantage of that?
The smoother the drag, when the fish is going out, close, you felt that where it goes, zzz, it catches and really pulls hard. You don't want that. You don't want to stop that fish when he's trying to make a nice run. That real smooth, easy clutch, where it just goes when it wants to. Because we're running light line, 10, 12-pound test, in the spring like this. And we don't want anything to stop those bigger fish in the water and have a chance of breaking off. Brown trout, there he is.
Brown trout? In the spring, a variety of good-sized fish can be caught close to shore. Oh, we have king salmon, coho salmon, steelhead trout, lake trout, and the first species of the season that comes right along shore and is relatively easy to catch is brown trout. This fish cures spring fever for most Great Lakes anglers. Oh, you can broil it over charcoal. Oh, man, it's delicious. But if you want to catch a big fish in the spring, and you don't have access to a boat, you can do it by floating a bobber in a river. The early opener for steelhead trout attracts a lot of steelhead fanatics, and the techniques aren't too mysterious. This is a typical bobber rig that everybody has gone to. Okay, you got what, three split shot sinkers here, about a foot up from. You're using a real spawn bag.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, nothing but the real stuff. A lot of guys use just yarn. Okay, and then up about, if you could pull that down here, geez, you got a fairly long, typical steelhead rod. What is this, about 8 feet, nine footer? With that bobber cost you 85 cents. I can see that on the side of it. Curing spring fever isn't always a warm process, because the heat of a fever doesn't come from the weather, it comes from the excitement. Look at this.
That's a beautiful fish.
You know, they say this.
That's what it's all about.
They say this on the fishing shows all the time, beautiful fish, but this is absolutely, as far as the steelhead goes.
Yeah.
Andy,
don't
screw it up at this point,
Normally,
Andy.
when I get them in the head, that fish is...
Well, one thing you learn about steelhead is that they do what they want to do when they want to do it. And after they're done doing what they want to do, then they'll let you land them.
One grab.
Oh.
Not bad, huh?
Not bad.
Oh, to a steelhead fisherman, a pink and silvery trout is the king of fish. Now, here's one of my favorite cures for spring fever. The Captain Nichols Perch party boat that runs out of South Haven was known for its summer fishing for many years, but a few years ago, Don Nichols tried some experimental trips in April. Let me just say that perch fishermen broke out in cold sweats. Their spring fevers broke when they began hauling in perch. Sometimes they got into the jumbo perch. But keep in mind, fishing in April is not done because it's comfortable. The purpose of fishing in April is to cure spring fever. I mean, it's a medicinal thing. The equipment required for perch fishing is simple. A bell sinker, a couple of dropper hooks off the main line, not expensive at all. But there's a trick to perch fishing, and it's in holding the line to a constant tension and watching the rod tip for that little tap of a bite.
Another bite. Got him that time.
Oh, Ross is legendary in South Haven. He developed the touch like nobody else.
You saw him just how he just touched the end of that. Did you see that?
Yep.
Just touched it.
Perch fishing is simple. You can rent a spot on the Captain Nichols, you can fish from your own small boat, and on some days, you can load up on perch from the piers and breakwalls on the Great Lakes. And if there's a better tasting fish than yellow perch, hey, I haven't found it. Maybe as good, but not better. Now, you say you want easy fishing, then get yourself rigged up with a European-style float. That's a system based on neutral buoyancy, a balance between the weight on the line under the water and a very sensitive float on the surface. Now, that float will move any time a fish moves the bait in any direction. If you set the hook right away, you'll probably have a fish. Now, this style of fishing is great for panfish. You can catch one after another, from shore, big ones, little ones, and everything in between. It's a great way to get kids into fishing success. Why, that isn't. Oh, you say you like the big ones, huh? The tough ones, the mean ones? Then northern pike, or what you'll need to cure your spring fever. Casting spinner baits into the shallow, weedy areas as soon as the season opens will give you all the thrills you want. And for really big ones, you'll need big sucker minnows for bait. Now, these can be as big as the bluegill and the perch you keep for dinner, but big pike like big minnows. In weedy lakes, you'll want to put a sucker minnow a few feet underneath a big bobber, but in the early spring, when pike season opens and the weeds are down, you can let that minnow swim on a free line while you row the boat along the drop-offs. This technique is called row trolling. It's quiet and effective. Big sucker minnows attract big pike, so don't be shy about setting the hook. Set it twice. That isn't a bad idea.
Looks like it is, like he's running that way. That's what we like to hear.
Boy, this is a big one, Fred.
Whoa. Well, I hope so.
Oh, man.
I hope so.
Northern pike are tough fighters, and sometimes they're bigger than you'd expect.
Ooh, we gotta see him, we gotta see him. Oh, jeez, oh, Pete.
Yeah!
Oh, no!
Hey, this net is not big enough. You have another net in here? What the heck? I can't believe this.
Fred,
What are we going to do with this shallow net?
get him with the head. Don't screw around.
Oh, golly. I don't know how. In the head. Get him in the head. In the head.
Boy, that's easy for you to say.
The head, Fred. The head.
Bring him back here. Okay, if I can keep him this direction.
Ah! Oh, jeez, oh, Pete. Oh, this is great. Oh, Chris.
A sure cure for spring fever, a trophy northern pike is a perfect prescription for excitement. But Mark Martin can do the same thing with walleye.
Look at the size of that walleye.
Holy cow.
That's a good walleye.
Several years ago, we fished with Mark Martin in northern Manitoba's Gunaseo Lake. That far north, the ice doesn't go out until May, so July is much like spring in Michigan. Using a portable flasher, Mark found big walleye in the first hour of the first day of our trip.
He's been down in the rocks. That's probably a 9-pounder or so, isn't it?
Well, Brendan Budd saw how an electronic flasher could help find walleye, and thanks to Mark Martin, all of the boats at Gunaseo are now equipped with flashers. This means fishermen can locate walleye as they move from spawning areas to open water. They use basic rigs like jigs tipped with juicy night crawlers to catch big walleye from ice out through the end of summer. Mark says a night crawler will make almost any walleye lure more effective. Stinger hooks are also very helpful for walleye fishing. A stinger hook is a small hook on monofilament line a few inches behind the main hook. It can make a difference in the number of fish you catch when the walleye are just grabbing the ends of the crawlers. In early spring, body baits trolled or casted towards the shoals can also be productive. Here was a spring trip we took with Joel Dyksterhouse from Petoskey. It was a windy spring day on Burt Lake.
There was the hit.
Oh, he
Yep,
came back.
I got it.
He came back. He came back a second time
Yep.
and hit it.
Got it. Okay, we got fish stacked up here. We've got fish rolling all along the reef here.
Windy days in the spring may not be the most comfortable for fishing, but that's when the fish will feed in the shallows and along the drop-offs and during the day. When the wind howls, you'll have the lake to yourself. Well, just you, your buddies, and the fish. And that makes a nice group.
This is a nice fish, Fred. There we go.
Doubleheader.
Walleye are the same as many species. Where you catch one, you're likely to catch more.
Barely got him hooked, too.
Springtime is when a lot of big walleye will be caught. But for me, the antidote for spring fever is about a 17-inch walleye. Fried. Ah, that's perfect. But remember, we're concerned about curing spring fever. That's our main mission. And just to sum it up, there are lots of ways to do it. Northern pike are good for the respiratory system. They'll get your heart pumping. But if you find fish with sharp teeth are too stressful, steelhead fishing might be your best therapy. But maybe you can't take the stress of fighting big acrobatic fish. In that case, plant your feet firmly on shore and use a sensitive float to detect the bites of bluegill or crappie. The therapeutic effect is excellent, and so is a meal of fresh panfish. Now, if your doctor recommends that you need to eat more to cure your spring fever, fried lake perch is an obvious antidote. He'll prescribe a lightweight rod, some flour and seasoning salt, and a ticket on the Captain Nichols. Or reserve a charter boat for a half day of fishing. You can catch salmon and trout and have a thoroughly enjoyable ride. But no matter what kind of spring fishing you choose, I have to warn you about a serious side effect of curing spring fever. Most patients develop another serious ailment. It's called fishing fever, and that takes all summer to cure.
There's lunch.
Here's a question of law that was called into Salgani. This one a lot of fishermen will recognize. Guy says, I was fishing for northern pike. I know the possession limit is 5 and the minimum size is 24 inches. I had 3 in my possession that were larger than 24 inches. Now, when I caught my 4th pike, I pulled it out of the water, placed it on the ice, decided to bait my hook again before I measured the fish. Now, it appeared to be the proper length, so I wasn't immediately concerned. Within 2 minutes, and before I could measure it, a DNR officer approached me with a tape measure in hand and measured the pike. Measured out at 23 inches. Now, I received a citation for possessing an undersized pike. What should I do? What is the law? That's pretty simple, isn't it, what the law is?
It's not that simple. The problem is the law does not define the term possess. You got to know what the definition of possess is. Here, the CO determined what possess was according to him. I think in this case, you've got to challenge the ticket, and this person has to go to court and prove to the court that he did not possess the fish.
Now, how is he going to do that? I suppose the officer's going to say, you caught it, it was on the ice, you didn't immediately measure it. I didn't know that you had to immediately measure a fish. I didn't know there was a time limit on this.
There is no time limit in the law. What's reasonable? And the court or a jury is going to decide what's reasonable.
Does it matter? How would you bring in evidence to show other fishermen would say, yeah, nobody measures the fish immediately. It's common to rebait the hook. Will that help?
I think it would. The common practice in the community would be something that would help. If you had witnesses with you to say that he just caught the fish a minute or two ago, I think that a court or a jury would say that you were not possessing the fish.
Now, wouldn't the officer tend to say, oh, it was 3 or 4 minutes on the ice, and he would tend to say, oh, it was only 30 seconds or a minute? I mean, isn't that normally the way it goes?
Normally is the case, and again, the judge or jury is going to decide who's more credible and what the facts are. There's two sides to every coin. In this circumstance, I'm sure the CO is going to say it was a longer time, and the fisherman's going to say it was a shorter time.
Okay, now, it would be real clear if the fisherman, say, took the fish and, like, put it in a bucket, put it in an ice chest, but when he just let it lay there, and obviously the officer threw it back and it was still alive. I mean, no harm was done.
I think in this circumstance, it's the person's actions that's going to control. And if the actions were that he took it and put it in an ice chest, of course it might be possession. But his actions here of leaving the fish on the ice right next to the hole would clearly, I think, show that he wasn't intending to possess it. He didn't get a chance to measure it.
Without touching it, without kicking it over away from the hole or anything, if he just left it there.
Yeah.
But wouldn't he have to prove that with some, if it's just his word against the officer, is he going to lose?
I don't think so. I think that actions speak louder than words. And his actions here clearly show that he wasn't possessing the fish.
Well, we hope so. Good luck to him. And we have more talk to do in the future here on this. This is a confusing area of the law. If you have any questions or experiences with fish and game law you'd like to discuss with a practical attorney, you can call Sal at the Practical Sportsman Mondays from 3 to 4 p.m. That's when he gives free consultation to the general public on questions of law. Yours was 24 pounds.
Yeah, it was 24.9, and his was 19.
Holy cow. But
So I had a heavier bird. He had a bigger beard.
So you called this, and which one of you called, or both of you?
He did. I called.
You did the calling.
Yep.
And you knew were they a part of a big flock, or?
No, they just both come in at the same time. But we went out the day before, about 1:30 in the afternoon, and they were out in the field. We backed out of there, and the next morning we set up our decoy. And
One decoy?
one decoy, one feather flex. Yep.
So
Feather flex.
So what happened when they came in? What did they do in relation to the decoy?
Well, we put the decoy out, and within 5 minutes they were cackling back at us, and out they came, and we just were sitting there. And one had kind of spotted us, and by then it was like, well, you know, we're sitting right next to each other like this, and it's like, boy, I hope they don't take off. And the wind had blew, and the feather flex had turned a little bit, and the second Tom just took right off for the feather flex, and that was it. It was now.
Who made the call on when you're going to shoot?
He did.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Shoot!
And did you shoot on 2?
Shot on 1.
That's normally the way it goes. So you were calling, and you were.
I was just sitting there waiting because we heard him. And he, of course, like he said, he called now. So
and you had it picked out as one was going to shoot on the right, and one was on the left?
Right, correct. And actually, the back bird was supposed to be his, which is this one. And when the feather flex turned, this one went running right by the one that was looking at us. And then it was, like he said, now. He was a little more ready, but.
Oh, you guys must have been excited as heck.
Oh, yeah.
High-fiving and carrying on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, that's terrific. Well, congratulations.
Thanks, Fred.
That's a super story. You guys did well. We have Nancy and John Griffin here. Both of them catch some whopping big fish. You live up in Lake Ann. Beautiful little community on Lake Ann in Grand Traverse County. You were fishing the Boardman River with a night crawler, and is for this fish here.
That's for this one, Fred.
Actually, this looks more like a roadkill.
Let me explain.
Okay.
Let me explain. I've got 2 nice trophy browns mounted on the wall in the house. Well, this year I went out opening day. I caught the biggest one I've caught in my whole life, 7.5 pounds, huge fish. And I thought, what am I going to do? You know, can I spend another $300 and get another brown mounted? So this was a way I could have my cake and eat it too. So here's my cake, and we ate the rest.
You ate the rest. I'll be darned.
I got my trophy, and
so you hang this on the wall? Or
that's epoxy on the back, and
man,
hang it. It's different. You know,
it certainly is. It certainly is. But now Nancy here, you caught a trophy all your own.
19 and a half, 3 pounds, 3 pounds, 2 ounces in the UP. John had a special place back in the woods he wanted to check out. He had heard that there was some big brook trout back there, and so I decided to go along, and he gave me a pole and told me what to put on my pole, on my hook, and this is what
And what did you put on the hook?
It was a white twister tail.
Oh, so you were like casting jigging or something?
Yeah, jigging.
It was a lot of fun.
That's a secret place back there.
Yeah, oh yes.
Okay, that's what happens with these trout. Yeah, we don't have the card with all the data for this one. No doubt. Well, Nancy, that's terrific. You got a trophy, and the neat thing is you got to have the whole thing mounted.
Yes.
But this one tasted pretty good on
yes,
the barbecue.
I bet it did. Congratulations, the Griffins from Lake Ann. Reserve a charter boat for a half day of fishing. You can catch salmon and trout and have a thoroughly enjoyable ride. But no matter what kind of spring fishing you choose, I have to warn you about a serious side effect of curing spring fever. Most patients develop another serious ailment. It's called fishing fever, and that takes all summer to cure. Here's lunch.